Hey guys, this is Bernadette, and I'm going to be speaking about the herpes simplex virus, which is a very well-known unknown STI. As in my research, I found that it was interesting that as much as infamous as this virus is, there's actually not a lot that we know. So what do we know? We know certain characteristics of the herpes simplex virus and that it manifests in blisters, pus-filled blisters that when broken can transmit the virus. It also has a mechanism called it also goes through asymptomatic viral shedding, in which even though an infected person may not be showing symptoms of herpes, they are still contagious and can still spread the virus. Also, the herpes simplex virus has a characteristic called latency, in that it can lie dormant in the body for life. Basically, it's your best friend for life. Where it doesn't exactly manifest itself in any sort of symptom. Again, it's asymptomatic, but it can show itself in certain outbreaks due to like the menstrual period or the sun and other things. The herpes simplex virus is characterized by two representative subgroups, HSV1, herpes simplex virus type 1, and herpes simplex virus type 2. And these are differentiated by the area of the body that the blisters will appear, or where the blisters will appear. So HSV1 or cold sores appear from the waist up. So these are going to appear, they manifest on the lips, sometimes but rarely on the face and on the fingers. Whereas HSV2 or genital herpes, they manifest from the waist down or in the genital area. However, HSV1 you can have an HSV1 infection in the genital area that is usually brought about by someone who is infected with HSV1 or the cold sores performing oral or transmitting orally to the genital area the herpes virus. So you can have a genital HSV2 or HSV1 infection. Sorry. So HSV1. So the cold sore, it goes through 3 stages. Which the initial stage, there's some redness, there's some tingling, and then the blisters appear, and then soon they dry up and they form a large scab after they burst, and the scab soon falls off. It goes through this cycle of an outbreak, as I said, with latency and how it lies dormant and then manifests and lies dormant again. The herpes simplex virus is very, very easily transmittable, as it can transmit through kissing, skin-on-skin contact, and sharing objects such as a straw or a fork. This is why most people can contract HSV as an infant or a child, and a lot of people don't know that they have it. As I said, it lies dormant. And what's interesting to note is that kissing, skin-on-skin contact, and sharing objects, notice these are all non-sexual forms of transmission. So it is basically a non-sexual, sexually transmitted disease. Whereas the second type, herpes simplex virus type 2, is more of the sexually transmitted. This is the one that is spread through intercourse. And another way that it's spread is neonatally, in which a woman gives birth while she is infected and passes on the virus to the baby, which is extremely dangerous. As this example right here, as in this example right here, there is this infant with herpes and atopic eczema. So this is just one example of how a lot of times the simplex virus will, in neonatal cases, will have other types of disorders and deficiencies and not good stuff. Okay, so we have established that herpes is extremely contagious. Statistically, 7 out of 10 people have the HSV1 infection, which is the cold sore. That's 3.7 billion people globally, and these are all age 14 to 50, so teenagers to adults. And though that number seems pretty high, just imagine the herpes virus lays dormant most of the time and undetected. So the CDC estimates that about 90% of those who are actually infected with genital herpes, and this is genital herpes, have never been diagnosed. Genital herpes being the one that looks a lot smaller here compared to cold sores. This could be also due to the fact that there is a stigma associated with STIs. After all, you can't spell stigma without STI. And so with genital herpes, it's frowned upon. It's seen as those who have it are seen as promiscuous. Time magazine in this cover compares it to the new Scarlet Letter from Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel. So now that we know that it's like kind of everywhere, how do we protect ourselves? How do we prevent STIs? Well, or with herpes. With any STI, the best way to avoid contracting any infection is through abstinence. For those who are sexually active, being in a monogamous relationship with trustworthy communication would lower your chances of contracting it, getting infected. Another way is by using condoms. However, with genital herpes, it's not always manifested. And it lies, as I keep saying, it lies dormant and you don't exactly know where it is. So condoms aren't exactly the safest route here. So condoms aren't always the safe solution. So if you have another partner who is infected with herpes, what do you do? With genital herpes, by the way. One thing that you could do is going to the doctor and taking suppressive antiviral medications and practicing abstinence during the symptomatic outbreaks. So just be on the lookout for those kinds of things. The origins, I think, my favorite part. Moving on to the evolutionary origins of herpes virus. Humans are the only ones who have who are the hosts of two different types of herpes simplex virus. Whereas all the other primates, they have their own herpes virus. Only the Homo sapiens have two of the herpes simplex type 1 and type 2. However, in a recent study by UC San Diego, they looked at advanced molecular models, and they found that about 6 million years ago, HSV1 infected the common ancestor of Homo sapien and this is the common chimpanzee. So the common ancestor of the chimpanzee and humans were infected by herpes simplex virus 1, and then after they split, the HSV2 and a close relative were found split from the chimpanzee. It jumped from the chimpanzee to a human host. So the herpes virus was infecting humans before were originated in chimpanzees. In literature, we see that Hippocrates first defined herpes as to creep or to crawl. And in Shakespeare, in Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare describes Queen Mab as having these symptoms, not having the symptoms, but describing blisters and plagues. And he even hints, or I guess hypothesizes almost, that the human to human interactions of this blister plague that he's describing. So we see in early times that herpes was prevalent throughout. And But it's interesting again that Shakespeare noticed this human-to-human interaction, and when in 1597, when it wasn't until 1919 when Lowenstein experimentally confirmed this human transmission of HPV. This is just human transmission. After that, it blew up. After that, research with HSV, or the herpes simplex virus, blossomed, and leading to what are recent studies today on antiviral research and possible vaccines. However, vaccines today, or efforts in vaccines today, haven't been very successful. There are 3 companies currently trying to develop one, but even in recent news, I saw a recent article about a month ago in which the studies were not going very well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on Fridays with questions.